Welcome back to another Dragon Ball Weekly News video, and this one is absolutely ginormous. They did a big event called Japan Expo. It's still going on. I was going to wait to upload this video tomorrow, Sunday, because that's when the Torishima and Toyotaro panel is going to be happening, but it looks like everything that we were looking forward to that panel for basically already got discussed. It's crazy. We're going to be talking about the future of Dragon Ball Super, the passing of Akira Toriyama, things that Toyotaro wants to work on in Dragon Ball Super to improve it. It's going to be big. So this is going to be a big video. We're also going to be talking about this Dragon Ball Z commercial that aired recently that really shows you why we need a Dragon Ball Z remake, as well as talking about Dragon Ball Z Kakarot's Daima DLC and some troubles that it may be facing. So first up, as you can see here, this is coming from VonDBZ2. I think their regular account basically got banned or something like that, so they're uploading from this account. So there was a panel that they did, but the panel was kind of safe. They kind of just drew and hung out and talked. Apparently they did a press conference where social media people could ask questions. I have a couple other pages to go through where they expanded on this, but VonDBZ really left notes throughout the whole conference. So basically we're just going to go through here, and then as I touch on other things that were expanded on by other people, we'll go ahead and get into them. But first off, let's just start with VonDBZ. He says when they came in, and I believe it's a he, I'm not positive. When they came in, Torishima arrived first and said hi. He scolds Nakatsuru because he didn't say hello. Toyotaro loves all of DB, so it is all canon to him. He specifically mentioned Dragon Ball Online. So this is going to go into this right here by Sophian Lageek. He says, question asked to Toyotaro and Torishima, what is canon in Dragon Ball? Toyotaro says, every fan must choose their own canon. For example, for me, the game Dragon Ball Online is canon. Torishima says Akira Toriyama loved to please the fans. He created stories over time without everything necessarily fitting together. So, in case you missed it, I did make a canon video recently where I tried to talk about the Toriyama continuity as best I could. This is what Torishima is talking about. Akira Toriyama loved to please the fans. He created stories over time without everything necessarily fitting together. So this is about the Dragon Ball Daima, the Dragon Ball Super, the Dragon Ball Z. Toyotaro is talking about every fan must choose their own canon. For me, the Dragon Ball 9 is canon. So Toyotaro is taking a more broad Dragon Ball canon approach. Torishima is mainly talking about things that Akira Toriyama touched. Again, Toriyama was involved with Dragon Ball 9 to an extent, so the canon continuity, the whole conversation is very complex, but I was glad to see Toyotaro touched on it. And of course, with Toyotaro being the writer of Dragon Ball Super now, his opinion does hold weight. Toyotaro says he did not depict Goten well during the Dragon Ball Super Superhero Prelude, and would like to do more with him, which is amazing. Very big news for you Goten fans. Toyotaro is aware that people were complaining about how Goten was treated in the Superhero Prelude arc, and Toyotaro will work more with him. Toriyama was impressed by Nakatsuru when he did his manga because Nakatsuru would do angles of the composition of the scene or the poses of the characters he'd never imagined. There were lots of people relying on the IP, so Dragon Ball ending would cause economic problems. This is why Dragon Ball GT. Usually you'd ask the author to do more, but Torishima knew he wouldn't as he just finished and only asked some characters in a simple plot. Make do with this. So, I've talked about this before. Toriyama was absolutely exhausted. They basically had to beg him to do the Buu saga, so yeah, there was no way he was going to be doing GT. Then Toriyama, or Torishima I should say, to Nakatsuru says, alright, Dragon Ball GT, that was you, because you know Nakatsuru was basically all over GT. Torishima said he was bored when he watched the Slam Dunk the first. He thinks it's a movie for old fans, but it's not a movie to draw new fans into Slam Dunk and such. Such disappointment. There was a discussion with us about AI and technology uses and how to apply them to Toriyama's works and styles. This is, again, VonDBZ. Again, he's basically recapping the panel, so we're just reading basically what he says. He says he'll write a proper article about this unless somebody else publishes it first. So it doesn't sound like it was anything like too relevant to Dragon Ball. And TLDR was, it's about knowing how to use your brain when using the tool/technology so you don't become the tool's tool. That makes sense. Then he says they're taking a break. Okay, so this is very important. So, adding one more for those who want new information about whether Toyotaro could continue the story without Toriyama, credited as writer/author. The answer is yes, but since the beginning he'd write the story and then send it to Toriyama for approval. Toriyama also sent him his own stories and Toyotaro would interpret them and send them back for approval. As such, as part author, he said continuing without Toriyama-sensei would be not easy but not impossible, but he does not decide that. Ask Shueisha Toei, the company in charge of Akira Toriyama's estate. There was a question about the future and direction of the franchise as a whole, and the answer was, why ask us? Then this is Von DBZ talking. He says, as I've stated before, Nakatsuru is a character designer, animator, and freelancer. Torishima doesn't even work for Shueisha anymore, and Toyotaro doesn't hold the rights. As such, asking them about sayings they have literally no agency over is useless. And then this is a quote here. I don't know. You should ask Shueisha, Toei, and the company in charge of Toriyama's estate. This was Torishima's response to this question about the future of the franchise. And then Von DBZ got to ask him questions. The answer to the first one, what were your biggest artistic influences, including non-manga, is super long, so they'll type it out later. Second one was about artists behind the backgrounds and harmony cells, and Nakatsuru doesn't remember. So that was the Von DBZ interview. And then Vinixis was actually translating from the DB_Times how they covered this press conference. Again, a little bit more information in this. Toyotaro said it's not impossible to continue without Toriyama-sensei because it was he, Toyotaro, who wrote the story of Dragon Ball Super and then sent it to Toriyama, who would approve or not. On other occasions, Toriyama would send his stories to Toyotaro so he could take a look and make suggestions. Then Toriyama would approve them again or not. Since part of the story came from him, Toyotaro believes that continuing without Toriyama-sensei would be not easy, but not impossible. So, again, just expanding on how Von DBZ, again, great job, Von DBZ, recapping this press conference. I can't imagine how difficult that was. But, again, just a little bit expanding on some of those answers. What Toyotaro is basically saying is that as soon as the legal mumbo-jumbo gets resolved, he could create it because he was literally part of the creative team. Piccolo Daima Yano's, I always have a hard time pronouncing their username, so here it is. They have this interview that was done by France Info, so I'm assuming this is like some sort of media agency in France, and then they went ahead and translated it for us. So they have a video, but the subtitles are in French, and the audio, of course, Toyotaro talking is in Japanese. So I'll just go ahead and read their translation. Piccolo Daima Yano's, again, sorry, definitely mispronouncing that. He says, Toyotaro interview on France Info English translation. This isn't my first time in France. I've been here before when I was a student. I was thrilled to see the Eiffel Tower, the Arc de Triomphe, the Louvre Museum, and Notre Dame. Again, I'm not a French speaker. I'm familiar with like the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre. I think that's how you say it, the Louvre. The fact that France is the second largest manga consuming country after Japan is quite fascinating to me. I appreciate that this culture is so accepted here. Is that true? I never realized that. That's cool. Dragon Ball's success lies in a story that is simple in a good way. When there's a fight, there's no need to read a block of text to understand. This makes the series accessible to everyone, no matter who you are or where you live in the world. The simplicity of the work is its strength. I've been saying that for a long time. People talk about Dragon Ball having like a weak story. I think part of Dragon Ball's charm is the simplicity. When I was young, my first encounter with Dragon Ball was through animation. I hadn't yet read the manga, but I loved it, and then I bought the V-Jump magazine, which was pre-publishing Dragon Ball. There was a fight between Vegeta and Goku, and I was completely hooked. I wanted to draw Dragon Ball. At the time, there were card games in which I drew the main characters. I went to see the Japanese publisher Shueisha. I started showing them my work, and one thing led to another, and I was in contact with Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, and I started working with him on the manga Dragon Ball Super in 2015. So he's talking about how he worked on Dragon Ball Super Heroes after he got into the Dragon Ball manga, and then basically he heard about them recruiting for Dragon Ball Super, and he was like, hey, I'm actually drawing the Dragon Ball Heroes manga. Pretty cool. I always love hearing that story. My favorite character is Granola because when I drew him and presented him to Akira Toriyama, he immediately said, okay, that's great, go for it. I'm also very proud of having created Black Frieza, so that makes sense. Obviously, if you're creating a character for Dragon Ball Super and Toriyama's like, that looks great, go for it. I mean, that's pretty high praise. When Akira Toriyama passed away in 2024, I wasn't expecting it. For a while, I was a little lost. I didn't really know what to do. There were many messages of comfort throughout social media. Even though I was close to him, I felt like one among the millions of sad fans. For me, Dragon Ball is the #1 manga in the world. I don't think Dragon Ball should end. That is key. Toyotaro does not think it should end. I don't think a lot of people do. I'm not alone in working on it. It's the strength of fans around the world that allows this work to continue. As a manga artist, what I would like in the future is to continue evolving and always improve, to have multiple approaches to create funnier manga, to improve my drawing and storytelling skills. That's my goal. So as you can see, TOYOTARO is taking this seriously. He knows the role he has and he's eager to get back into the work. Again, he does not know when Dragon Ball Super is returning. It will return. It will. I don't think Dragon Ball Super is gone forever. There's just all that legal mumbo jumbo behind the scenes. In case you're not aware of what I'm talking about, I made a pretty comprehensive video breaking it down. I'll go ahead and link it in the description and the comment section. But yeah, this was all absolutely phenomenal news. Again, they were not going to do the Torishima and TOYOTARO panel on Sunday, but for some reason they went ahead and had this press conference and everything like that, and they basically answered all the questions that we would have had otherwise, that I was basically waiting for Sunday to make the weekly Dragon Ball news breakdown. So TLDR, Dragon Ball Super will eventually return. You don't have to worry about it, but there's no word yet on when it will return. Whenever it does return, TOYOTARO is pretty confident that he will be able to write it because he was already taking part in it with Toriyama and was even doing a lot of writing himself. Some people have said that TOYOTARO basically only works from Toriyama's outlines. TOYOTARO says that's not the case. Sometimes he would write the story, sometimes Toriyama would write the story. It was a very collaborative effort. Also, he had a personal relationship with Toriyama, as he confirmed here. So, again, he says even though I was close to him. So, some people have said that Toriyama and TOYOTARO did not have a close relationship, that they just messaged each other through editors and stuff. I don't think so. TOYOTARO literally says he had a close relationship with him. So, pretty interesting stuff. And Goten fans, you look forward to Dragon Ball Super. TOYOTARO's aware that he needs to do more with Goten because he kind of admits that he did not get the best development in the Dragon Ball Super superhero prequel arc. So a lot of information from this whole panel. Some Nakatsuru and Torishima goodness, but what I was mainly interested in is what TOYOTARO has to say, because right now he is the future of Dragon Ball, because Dragon Ball Super is the basically, like, that's the big franchise. That's the tentpole franchise that everybody's looking forward to. And then this I just thought was entertaining. For some reason, Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, was a Dragon Ball fan. I did not know this. So they went ahead and showed up here. Pretty cool. Posing with Torishima. I did not know the president. Why is the president of France a Dragon? I don't. You know what? Good for him. I guess it's cool. All right, now let's talk about the Dragon Ball Z Kakarot situation. It is not as bad as you may think, but it is still a little concerning. So let's just go ahead and go over the gameplay first that they showed. Absolutely stunning. I really like the grounded combat. The cutscenes look amazing. Dr. Arinsu looks amazing. This is our first video game appearance. Obviously, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, I think, is a pretty consistently good video game. And having Dragon Ball Daima represented as DLC makes a lot of sense. Now, here's the thing that is a little concerning. We all know what the story is. I'll go ahead and fly by that. So you have Pansy involved a lot. You got some filler stuff that they're adding. So they went ahead and talked about how they're going to be adding on to Pansy's story. There's going to be little lore bits that you can find just like in original Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. So it's cool that they're expanding on it in a great way. I think it's nice. Again, more Pansy action, so you're going to learn more about these characters. Battle is all grounded combat, so I love that. But I do think that they do learn to fly as the show goes on. So maybe in part 2, whenever you go to the second and third Demon Worlds, you'll be able to fly, I'm assuming. Maybe that's why they're going to be so short that they're in one DLC pack. But I think it looks good. It looks fun. The only concerning thing is it's releasing on the same day as Donkey Kong Bonanza. That's not good. Donkey Kong Bonanza is like a very big game that a lot of people are going to be playing. It's going to be tough to have that direct competition. So hopefully it doesn't fail. I do think that they're kind of setting it up for failure in a way, because why would you release it on a day that another major video game is going to be releasing? That game is by the Super Mario Odyssey team. It's basically going to be a hit. It's like releasing a video game. It's like releasing Batman on the same day you're releasing Avengers Endgame. Like, that wouldn't really be the best decision. More people would probably see Avengers. So, obviously, more people will probably be playing Donkey Kong Bonanza, and this might not do that great sales-wise. You know, I'm just being honest. So, hopefully, they are able to pull back and make a comeback and do great. The gameplay looks great. I love the grounded combat. Again, I love the exploration. I love that they're fleshing out the lore in Dragon Ball Daima. Obviously, Dragon Ball Daima was big on lore, but I like that they're doing kind of filler stuff. Like, you know, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot was pretty good with covering the filler stuff, so it's all very good. So I'm not too concerned about Dragon Ball Daima, the DLC for Kakarot, doing bad, but I do think it is cause for concern. Like, is this thing doomed to fail? And it's not impossible to fail. It's been done before. Games have failed before. Obviously, this is DBZ Kakarot, so it has a tactical advantage going into it, but I don't know. It's just a little concerning is all. So let me know in the comments, do you think it's going to do poorly? Do you think it's going to succeed? Despite the same-day release as Donkey Kong Bonanza having that competition, who knows? You let me know. All right, and final subject I wanted to touch on today. This is the big one. So this is from Findy, which is like a engineering thing. I'm not exactly sure what they do. They're like a company that encourages engineering. And I'm not sure if I can play this video all the way through because of how copyright works. You know, they would probably claim it if I'm being honest because of animation and all that stuff. So I just want to go through and look at some, like, kind of like do a slideshow thing and look at how good this animation looks. So they are basically reanimating Dragon Ball Z scenes featuring Bulma because she's an engineer, and I think this is basically them trying to get people into engineering from what I'm understanding. But the animation is freaking solid. So they literally remade Dragon Ball Z. We could, like, so Dragon Ball Z gets remade so much, we could, like, take all these scenes and put them together and basically, like, redo Dragon Ball Z, kind of. But it looks amazing, and I wanted to take a moment to talk about why now is the time to redo Dragon Ball Z. With the passing of Akira Toriyama, nostalgia is at its height. One Piece is getting reanimated. I think, again, One Piece is kind of a different conversation because I think part of the motivation for One Piece getting reanimated is because it's so long. People think that it's like too long to get into, so starting over from the beginning could be a great jumping on point, and then people could keep up with it that way. But again, still yet, One Piece getting reanimated means that it's not impossible for Dragon Ball Z to be reanimated, especially whenever you look at this. Like, look how amazing this looks. This is amazing, and I want to take a moment and also compare it to the original Dragon Ball Z anime and manga. So Griffin Station went ahead and uploaded some pretty good comparison shots on Twitter. We're going to go ahead and go through them. So this is the remake, this is the manga, and this is the original animation. So Dragon Ball Z, like I've always said, the animation was not perfect. This is not exactly on model. It's not bad, but this and this is much more accurate to the anime, or the manga rather, than this is. Again, looking at this, the remake, the manga, and then the original. Again, they did what they could with the technology at the time, the fast pace, the animation. They were animating week to week, whatever. You know, not whatever like a bad thing, but you know, they had their reasons for why this did not look perfectly on model. But this and this, literally perfection. Perfection. It looks great. They went ahead and uploaded some other ones here. I just want to go ahead and go through these because they look phenomenal. Like this, for example. Looks great. Looks great. Doesn't look bad, but you can see it's got its own touch. It's got its own little style going for it, right? It's not necessarily bad. We all love Dragon Ball Z, but this is Akira Toriyama's his art style, and then this is the anime remake. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So people say that it doesn't need a remake, but I think it kind of does. I mean, we're in the time frame where nostalgia is powerful. People are remaking things all the time. The time is now. You know what I'm saying? Like, why put it off? There's no reason to put it off. This is the perfect time to be remaking it. Like, Akira Toriyama's passed away. People are missing his work. I just think, if not now, then when, basically. Like, at a certain point, you have to... I mean, if they're doing a One Piece remake, and Dragon Ball is like the most popular anime ever, I believe, right? I think One Piece may technically have more volumes sold, but that's because they have way more volumes created. Dragon Ball Z, I think is... I don't know. I don't know the stats right off the top of my head, but either way, Dragon Ball is supreme. I think you're in this weird situation now where people aren't sure where the copyright is. They're not sure who owns what in terms of the IP. And if we're going to be in this deadlock for I don't know how many more months or years of, do we do more Dragon Ball? I don't know. We have to talk to the estate of Akira Toriyama. That's fine. I understand, you know. But in the meantime, come on. You're telling me in the meantime we can't get a Dragon Ball remake? Now, I wouldn't start it with Dragon Ball Z. I would start it with OG Dragon Ball. And it would be great because it would be kind of like Dragon Ball Z Kai where you could cut out all the filler. But you could also just improve the pacing in general. So I think it's something worth doing. It's something worth doing. I think it's something they should be doing. So what do you guys think? Let me know. Do you think it is time for a Dragon Ball Z remake? And what do you think of this Dragon Ball Z remake? I will go ahead and link the description. I will go ahead and link the video, I should say, in the description and in the comment section in a pinned comment. That way you can go ahead and watch this without me having to cycle through it, but it's pretty good. Pretty good. So, do you think we should be getting a Dragon Ball Z remake? I think so. I think now's the time, so they should be doing it since they've got nothing else cooking. Although, I think Yoko did say that they are working on whatever will be coming next, but I'm talking about generally speaking. Like, if there's no Dragon Ball Super manga coming, Yoku's battling for the rights and everything like that, I think now is the time to do a DBZ remake. So you let me know what you think. Anyways, guys, I know this video is a really long video. We definitely went longer than I usually do, but this was a very big news week. Again, I was going to upload this tomorrow. I was going to wait for the Toriyama and Toyotaro panel that they're doing tomorrow, but this was so big. This was like a really big news week, and they discussed a whole lot, and I was like, wow, this is basically everything that we were looking forward to them discussing on Sunday, so I'll just go ahead and cover it a day earlier than I planned to. So let me know what you guys thought of this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like, comment down below, subscribe to keep up to date with all things Dragon Ball news and commentary, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace off.